It has not moved in 8 months. It sits in the same spot in the driveway, or the garage, or along the side of the house where it was left the day it stopped working. The registration is expired. There is a thin layer of dust on the hood that has been there long enough to stop looking like dust and start looking like texture. The tires have gone slightly soft on one side. Leaves have accumulated in the gap between the windshield and the hood, and nobody has cleared them. The person who owns it walks past it every single day. Sometimes they stop, put a hand on the roof without thinking about it, stand there for a moment in a way that is hard to describe and harder to explain, then go inside. They have been asked about it, more than once, by people who mean well, who are being practical, who are pointing out the obvious with the patience of someone who has pointed it out before. You should sell it for parts. You should donate it. You should let it go. It is just sitting there. It is not doing anything. It is not going anywhere. At some point, you have to be realistic about this. And the person nods, agrees it probably makes sense, says they will deal with it soon. 8 months become 12. 12 become 18. The car does not move. From the outside, this is irrational, possibly even a little sad, a broken thing being kept past the point of usefulness by someone who cannot seem to do the obvious and practical thing. But the outside view is missing something, something that is not about the car at all, was never about the car. And that explains not just why the car stays, but why this person is wired in a way that makes letting go feel less like a practical decision and more like an act of violence against something they cannot fully name. Start with the surface explanation and why it is wrong. The most common thing said about people who keep broken cars is that they are sentimental, attached to memories, unable to separate the object from the experiences it carried. This explanation is offered kindly, and it is not entirely false, but it is incomplete in a way that matters, because sentimentality is passive. Sentimentality is looking at something old and feeling warmth toward it. What these people feel is not warmth. It is something more active, more urgent, more tangled. It is closer to loyalty. And loyalty, unlike sentimentality, implies obligation. And it implies that walking away would be a betrayal, that the thing being left behind has a claim on the person leaving, that the act of letting go is not neutral, but carries a moral weight that most people around them cannot see and would struggle to understand even if it were explained. The broken car has a claim on them. They feel it every time they walk past, every time they put their hand on the roof without thinking. The claim is not logical. It does not respond to logic. It runs on something older and deeper than logic, in the part of the mind that keeps track of what has been there and what is not, what stayed and what left, what can be trusted to still be present and what cannot. Here is the first layer. The broken car still needs them. This sounds simple. It is not simple. For certain people, at the experience of being needed by something, of being the specific person without whom something would not survive, is not just pleasant. It is load-bearing. It holds up a part of their sense of self that does not have another support structure. These are often people who learned early that their value was conditional, that they were wanted when they were useful, that love and need arrived together and left together, and that the surest way to matter to someone was to be the person who fixed things, who handled things, who stayed when staying was difficult. They became capable, competent, the one people called when something went wrong, and somewhere in the accumulation of that role, their identity quietly organized itself around it. The broken car is not a problem to be solved. It is a relationship to be maintained. It needs them specifically. It cannot be started without them. It cannot be moved without them. It sits there in its particular state of arrested failure, and it requires, every single day, the implicit decision of this one person to keep it where it is, to not abandon it, to be, for this broken and non-functional thing, the person who did not leave. Fixing it would change the relationship. A running car does not need them the same way. A running car can be driven by anyone. The dependency that makes the attachment feel meaningful would dissolve the moment the engine turned over. So the fixing gets delayed, not consciously, not as a decision made in clear light, but delayed nonetheless by the part of them that understands without words that a fixed thing is an independent thing, and an independent thing does not need them anymore. And the second layer is darker. At some point in the life of a person who becomes attached to a broken car, they stopped and looked at it, really looked at it, and something happened that they have probably never told anyone. They recognized it, not the make or the model, not the year or the color, something else, something in the particular quality of its situation, still present, still here, still trying in whatever way a non-running car can be said to try to be what it was, but damaged in a way that made normal function impossible, carrying visible evidence of what had happened to it. Not gone, not replaced, just stopped, waiting. They recognized that, because it was the most accurate external image they had ever seen of something they carried internally and had never been able to describe. And the part of them that also stopped at some point, that also still showed up, still occupied space, still went through the motions of presence, but was running on something other than full capacity. Damaged in ways that were not always visible from the outside, but that made certain things, easy things for other people, feel enormously, privately difficult. The car is them, not metaphorically in a loose poetic sense, in a precise and specific psychological sense. It is an externalized version of the interior experience they have never been able to show anyone, and abandoning it feels, in a way they cannot fully articulate, but that their nervous system registers completely, like abandoning themselves. Sending it to the scrapyard means something they are not ready for it to mean. Now the third layer, and the one that makes the other two make complete sense. They do not fix it because fixing it would require them to face what it represents. The broken car arrived at its current state through a specific sequence of events. Something happened, something that was not addressed in time, or that was addressed incorrectly, or that accumulated quietly beneath the surface until it became something that could no longer be ignored. And now it sits, in its present condition, as direct evidence of the gap between what was tended and what was not, between the attention it needed and the attention it received. Fixing it means opening that, means going back into the sequence of events that produced the damage and working through it methodically, part by part, until the thing runs again. And for some people, and the car is so entangled with a specific period of their life, a period they have not fully processed, that the work of fixing it is not mechanical, it is archaeological. Every component touched is a piece of that time. Every part replaced is an acknowledgement that something was broken that should have been caught earlier, that something that mattered was not maintained the way it deserved to be, and they are not ready for that excavation. So the car stays broken, not because they do not care, because they care too much. Because fixing it would cost something that goes far beyond the parts and the labor and the hours in the driveway. It would cost them the protective distance they have maintained between themselves and the full weight of what that car represents, what that period meant, what was lost during it, and what they have not yet been willing to sit with completely. The broken car is not a failure of practicality. It is a monument, carefully, unconsciously maintained, to something that happened, to someone they were, to a version of their life that ended in a way they are still, quietly, not entirely finished grieving. There are people in the world who see a broken car in a driveway and feel vague judgment toward the person who left it there, who interpret the non-running vehicle as evidence of laziness or dysfunction or a failure to handle ordinary responsibilities. These people are reading the surface. Underneath the surface is someone who knows exactly what it would take to fix it, who has looked up the parts, who has watched the videos, who has, in some private moment, stood in front of it with a clarity about what needs to happen that was so complete it almost became action. But then something stopped them, the same something that always stops them at this particular threshold. The knowledge that fixing this specific thing means more than fixing this specific thing, that the car is not separate from everything else, that it is, in a way, they cannot explain to the person asking them why they haven't dealt with it yet, connected to something they are still carrying. They will fix it, maybe, or they will let it go when they are ready to let go of what it holds for them. Either way, the decision will not be about the car. It was never about the car. It was about the last time they loved something completely, trusted it completely, needed it, and were not disappointed. And the last thing that took them somewhere before it stopped. And the particular cruelty of a broken thing is that it still looks like the thing it was. It just doesn't run anymore. And neither, in certain ways, in certain parts of themselves, they protect most carefully from other people's inspection, do they?